Hi YouTube. It's been about almost almost 2 months since my last uh, video post. Today's date is April 4th, 2014. Yeah, it's 2014. Um, and I'm still living in Zhengzhou, China at this time. For those of you who haven't watched my previous videos, um, or yeah, haven't watched my previous videos. Um, I moved to Zhengzhou in August of 2013, and Zhengzhou is in the northern part of China, north central China. It's in the Henan province. Um, its population, honestly, at this moment, I don't remember, but I believe it's in the any number I'm going to pick is going to be way off. But it's in the millions. It's about the same population, if not a little bit larger than New York City. Um, but it doesn't look anything like New York City. So I started making these posts probably around the time that I left Portland, Oregon, which is where I was living previously to coming to China. And my main intention behind these posts were to keep video updates for my friends and just if I could offer any advice to anyone on moving to China. Although there's tons of blog posts for that out there, so you don't have to watch this to get that information. But also because I wanted to stay in contact with my mom. My mom didn't have a phone, and sometimes she had internet and she couldn't figure out how to set up Skype. I'd like to call her an erudite, but she just she just had some technological complications. So the easiest thing that she could do was to search YouTube and find these videos, and it would help her to see me and stay in contact. Um, but as those of you who have been watching these posts know, that my mom died um, on February 19th. And I was on vacation. I went to Australia and I went to Vietnam during my 3-week vacation from work here in China. And I chose to go to those places. And then I came back to China, and 4 days later, I found out that my mom had died. So I had to make an emergency return back to the States, and I was in California, which is where I'm from, for about 2 weeks. And then I came back to China to finish out my contract. And I had left a post saying that I was going to be on an indefinite hiatus. But I thought I'd give it a try to return to these. I don't really know what my intention is at this point. So this blog post, I guess, will be about dealing with death and grief when you live overseas or traveling. So I obviously can't speak for everybody else in the world. I'm just one person with one perspective. But I think there are some commonalities that many of us have. And I think one of them is this idea of traveling or living abroad that is kind of an escape from the reality of our everyday lives. And I suppose we do this with anything that we do. But there's something about moving to another country that separates you from your previous life or your current life, and it doesn't. And you think you're gonna have this non-real life. I don't know if this makes any sense to anyone. I mean, obviously it's a real life, but that it's just like like a story. Like the things that happen in everyday life are not going to happen while you're traveling. Um, be that your heartache for somebody that you had loved and left behind, or that you're gonna have any gossipy drama while you're traveling, which honestly does happen. You end up with a circle of friends, and then next thing you know, it's the same redundant um, and boring, dramatic behavior that maybe you had back wherever you're from. Real life just continues to happen, and one of those things is obviously death will happen. And I I'm still very new and early in the grieving process, and I don't think I can offer anyone any advice that um, is going through this, or if you wonder what it will be like. I mean, every person has their own experiences. But I will say it's really hard. It's really hard to be so far away from what is your home or what you know of as home, and to be grieving um, alone. And you will be alone because even though you have new friends, they don't know your history. They don't know the relationships that you had with the person that died. And in particular, I'm talking about your parents. Um, they don't know your relationship, so you don't have that support. And there's something funny that about death. It's this thing. It's death is the most common thing. I mean, it is the thing. It's the thing that binds us. There are only two things in this world that makes every single one of us the same. In fact, it binds us to everything in the world, to animals, to plants, to the universe, and that is birth and death. We all are born, and we're all going to die, and we're all going to lose somebody that we love. And we're all going to lose our parents. And some people lose their parents at a very young age, and some people don't know their parents, and so they lost them in that way. And then some people lose their parents in a later age. I think grief is different for everyone. But I will say, when you don't have anyone around you that knows you, or that can really support you, that it's really hard. So it's really hard to travel, to still be traveling, or to be working overseas. And then take in a whole different culture. You have a culture that is incredibly different from the culture that you're from. Um, I don't know traditionally what Chinese people culturally do to grieve. What I do know is that there's this thing, I can't remember what the word is in Chinese, but there's this thing about face, called face, where you have, it doesn't matter what you feel on the inside, you have to show that you got it all together on the outside. And I think, in a way, I can only speak for the States, that we kind of have this in the States too, a little bit. But in the States, people freak out all the time, and it's something that maybe it's more of an annoyance, or maybe a shock, or whatever, but you get over it. People get over it. And in China, it's just not what you do. And then plus, I'm in this workplace, so I'm in school, and I am teaching children, teenagers, and so I feel like I have successfully suppressed my grief and my emotions most of the time, which I don't think is extremely healthy. And maybe I'll have some sort of breakdown a year from now. But I'm getting through daily, and I guess that's really all that you can do, if you happen to be overseas when you're grieving. Yeah, I wish I could tell people how to make their pain go away, but I can't. It's each person's individual experience, each person's individual journey. Um, but with that said, I will say that where the like I said, I have successfully suppressed my emotions. I've successfully suppressed my feelings and my grief on a daily basis. But it does come out in the night, in my dreams, in my sleep. I do have a new anxiety that I had not had before, and I'm sure that it has to deal with the just death and the impermanence of it all. And I have those philosophical thoughts of what does it matter, and the existential crisis and all the things that I imagine comes with the loss of somebody when it's a surprise, and somebody that you care about, and somebody that was your caregiver when you were a child. And so I think that I'm probably just going through a normal experience. But since I am in this different environment and I'm in this foreign country, and I'm not around people who know me, I mean, really know me, that it seems to be manifesting in a different way, which again, I wouldn't say is necessarily healthy. But you have to do what you have to do sometimes to get through whatever you just got to do what you got to do. So that's where I am right now. I have 5 months left on my contract, and I'll save what my plans are for later videos. But since I am in China and I am talking about death and grief, I thought I would mention that right now is the Qingming festival. In Pinyin, that's spelled Qingming. And the Q in Chinese is a ch sound, Qing. So Qingming. And this festival is to honor the dead. And I haven't read up a lot on it. The information I've got is directly from my friends who are Chinese that live here. But people go home. So we're off for 3 days. The actual holiday, I believe, is on the 6th and 7th. But lots of my kids are leaving early today and they're going back home. Some people live far from where they go to school. And what they do is, part of what they do to honor the dead is that they burn money. So last night, I went with a friend of mine. He's Chinese, and we went down into the more of the city center area, and we were walking around, and I saw these people that were on the side of the road, and they had drawn a chalk mark on the ground. So everywhere on the ground there was this chalk mark drawn, and then inside that chalk mark there was a fire going on. So I asked my friend, what are they doing? And he said that because they are because they are poor and they can't afford to go back home. They are most likely from the villages, that in order to honor their family for the Qingming festival, which is we translate as a tomb sweeping festival. They burn the money there on the streets, and they, most in China, 70%, I believe that is the correct number, 70% of the population lives in the cities. So I believe on a daily level, you've got hundreds and hundreds of farmers and people that live in the villages coming into the cities, and they're very poor. They cannot afford apartments, and they can't afford to go back home. And so what they do is they still honor their dead. They still have they still practice this festival, but they have to do it in the only way that they can, which is to burn the money on the streets. And a lot of people do live on the streets. My friend was telling me last night what happens is people will come in, and I don't know the Chinese name for it, but it's called Village in the City. And they build these buildings, and the buildings are often built by the farmers themselves. And they are these, I don't know much about coding in China, and sometimes I question if there is any coding and regulations and coding on building coding in China, but I'm sure there's some. But these buildings, these particular buildings, these villages within the village inside the city, are definitely not up to any kind of code, and so they're probably very dangerous. And you've got people living like just smashed into these places, and they're usually 4 stories high. And they they have so many people living here, and the people are poor. Well, right now a lot of those people are becoming displaced because in the city of Zhengzhou, the government doesn't want these buildings, and I'm sure there's a million reasons behind that I'm not going to get into. But the 2 ones that my friend had told me are, one is that they don't make the city look very good because they've got these sort of makeshift buildings, and they somebody probably wants to buy the property. The government probably wants the property, and they're trying to develop Zhengzhou. They want Zhengzhou to be this. They want it to be like this, like a Beijing, that not Beijing, but just a first tier city. They want it to be a first tier city. So they're knocking these buildings down. But the people don't have anywhere to go. So they're living on the streets, they're living under bridges, moving into new cities, villages within the cities. And so right now, during this weekend, because a lot of these people are displaced and they're out in the streets, there's going to be multiple fires all over the city on the streets, which I want to take some pictures of if I get a chance to get out there. But yeah, that's in a nutshell. That is how some people are celebrating, honoring their family, even if they can't go home, is by burning the money in the streets. So, okay. That is all for now. And I'll try to keep updated on the posts, and I've put down in the summary some links to a blog that I have that has all the photos that I took of Australia, photos of China, photos of Vietnam, just photos of travel. So if you want to see any pictures that I've taken, you can look there. I won't do any posts on Australia or Vietnam. All I can say is Australia is awesome. It's a great place to go. I wasn't in Vietnam for long enough. I was only in Ho Chi Minh City, but it was crazy. It was crazy. It was the New Year, so it was nuts. But it's worth to go visit again, and I'd like to see more Vietnam. And I did go on the Mekong River, and that was amazing. But just look at the pictures down in the summary area, and wish you all well. Bye.